Let's do it. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Do we have any staff or trustee additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, staff has no additions or deletions.
I'll move on to adoption of the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda is adopted. Move on to our general public comments. I'm just checking this, Lindley. You circled this one, but I wanted to know if you had a general comment.
I'll save it till new business.
Oh, excellent. Any other general comments while we're here? Okay. Let's see, move on from public comments. We'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion's approved. We've approved the consent agenda. On to our new business, for discussion and possible action. The approval of the primary care clinic layout plan and permission to bid the project.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just to remind the board, on March 18th, the Board of Trustees approved an agreement with Meridian Behavioral Health Care. The purpose of the agreement, sorry, Meridian, I've got you on my mind, Palms, I apologize. Approved an agreement with Palms. Palms, of course, was selected through an RFP process to operate what will be a public primary health care unit. And because of the way the RFP was structured, they were also asked to assist in a construction management type role to assist with the renovation of the building. And so you've approved that agreement. So for the past 2 months, the Palms team has been working on refining the layout, which Anita is here to discuss. The idea or the intent tonight is to get you to say the floor plan meets your approval and that it's okay to bid the project. And so that's where we're at this point.
I know, Missy, I know you're here to present for us, but Miss Lumley, you did have a public comment on this. We'll make sure.
After the presentation.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that. You can see that. So Miss Anita, if you'd like to go ahead.
So this is the floor plan. So there's 15 exam rooms. And then there's provider offices. And then actual offices, some will be for like support staff, so like referrals management person, maybe a billing staff, supervisor. There's also room for LSHA Hospital Authority staff member to be here. There's a break room, so that staff member also for the LSHA would have their own, not private entrance, but they would have a side entrance and own door. Nursing pod, and we also have the space for the pharmacy for in year 2. So just a kind of a standard, what we call a standard Palms layout. We do 3 exam rooms per provider. Any questions?
Anita, do you know whether or not there were any significant changes since this?
No, sir.
Okay, so in your agenda packet, trustees, there is a smaller scale layout. And Anita is saying this is basically the same layout she showed on page 4.
The biggest concern when we started talking about doing this and looking at the building was it gonna have to be sprinkled? That's always, a big expense when we have to do that. We did find out this past week, it would not have to be sprinkled.
Yeah.
So there would be some fire rated walls and doors, things like that, so it won't have to happen, but that will save several $100,000. So we were excited about that.
Yeah, Anita, just a couple of questions. With what is the patient capacity for that facility? If it's,
I don't want to be locked into a number. So, if we did 5 providers, you see about 400 patients per provider per month. But if you get to that threshold, you start doing things creative. You start giving people maybe 2.5 rooms per provider. or you start expanding your hours. So instead of closing at 5, you close at 7. So then that your capacity expands. That makes sense? So-
Okay, so easier. How many patients can you see in a month in that facility?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Optimum.
It might start at 2,000, but if we started getting creative with our hours and things like that, we could probably get up to about 28, 30,000.
That's a month.
Mhm.
That's good. Okay, and it's going to have a meeting. It's going to have a all-purpose meeting room, and so. Am I correct? It'll be about roughly the size of this room we're in.
Now, I don't know that.
I think someone told
It
me.
was
Okay.
close.
Okay,
Close, yeah.
okay, yeah, sorry.
Anita, you're acting like you're on the witness
Oh, yeah.
stand, so.
The price is right.
That's all.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What X-ray services are you gonna provide?
So it will be basic X-ray. We will not do, facial X-ray, but basic chest, extremities, things like that.
So you're not gonna have a CT or an MR?
No, ma'am,
Okay,
not space for that in this.
no, there isn't. That's why I was asking.
We thought basic X-ray personnel were easier to hire. That's why we kind of stuck with that. We've had a difficult time hiring the basic X-ray techs that I told you all about, but yeah, but just extremities and the chest. So talking to our engineer and stuff, so if this plan is approved, then it would be turned over to get ready for a bid set, is what will happen next. So to be able to get ready to send out for bids to local and semi-local contractors.
And Mr. Chairman, I did have the opportunity to meet with Anita's team. They did sort of walk through and explain various things.
One of them were sick tonight, so.
Yeah, with the staff, so we have been briefed. And, from a staff perspective, we have no issues with the layout.
I'm gonna withhold my comments and discussion and stuff like that until Miss Lindley, I'm gonna call this the end of it. And just say if we're doing public comments, if you wanted to go.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Sat, is there any other information that can be provided in written form as to what she said? About the sketch?
You give me my copy.
I need, yeah, you got
So
copies
there
of
was
it.
additional information,
Well, no, it's that,
that's it.
Yeah.
That's all,
it's a sketch. Floor plan.
floor plan. Where is the reimbursement schedule? And how will that be calculated? Why would the Lakeshore Hospital Authority waste $5 million when the Swanee Valley Transit Authority could transport any patients, all concerns, to the current facility for free? You've said in the past, it's for comments. Then how are the taxpayers to receive an answer from you? Do you only answer to the governor? It is apparent you live in a house or world with no mirrors, because I would not want to see myself either in reflection on the actions of this illegally constituted board.
Scare myself every time I'm.
Thank you, Miss Lindley. Mr. Bowden, I didn't know if you had a comment specific to this,
No, I want to do the new business,
the Meridian discussion, okay. Okay, are there any other public comments? On that? Okay, I'll open up to the board.
I've been asking around about Palms and I only get good reports. They accept all insurances as far as I know. They're willing to take our patients. And we may have some more people registered with us that can get help. So I don't see a problem at all,
Mhm.
and I would vote to go along with everything with them.
Yeah, I like the floor plan. This looks about as efficient as you can get for that space, and like you said.
Yeah, and
It's
if
the
they-
Palm Special. So I'm
if
like,
they
they
just-
know, they know better than any of us up here, I
If
can
they
tell you that.
decide to go with CT and MR, they can just kick a couple people out of that corner and do it.
Yeah. Well,
Steven, I didn't say this.
yes,
but
ma'am.
The pharmacy's located too in the lobby. So that's by design, so that people, when they're on their way out, can stop by the pharmacy or on their way in. And there will also be a drive-through there for that pharmacy. So you won't have to get out of the car. With your script either. Sorry, I should have said that earlier.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, like I said, you said this is conceptual, but yeah, I mean, the layout's about as efficient as you can get. I'm sure there'll be some minor changes as you get.
Remember, we're flipping the building, so the entrance is on the opposite side, the north side instead of.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just, I may be getting the cart ahead of the horse, but Mr. Williams, did you by chance have the opportunity to discuss the issue regarding the south end of the county, or is that later?
We have broached the subject, but not to be finalized or not to be, discussion's not finished until we get towards budget time.
Friday. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
No problem.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Again, this could probably be held until comments, but I would like to see us, especially with budget coming up soon. Discuss going ahead and changing our plan to match up with Palm, so we can start doing that sooner rather than later. Qualifications.
Gotcha.
So, Mr. Chairman, we are looking for two motions. One would be an approval of the floor plan as presented. And then secondly, permission to go ahead and seek bids for this project, which of
Okay.
course would come back to you.
Gotcha.
Sure, if there's no,
Right here.
I'll make a motion to approve the floor plan as proposed.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the floor plan as provided by Palms. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the floor plan is approved.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we put this out to bid.
so move, or second.
Have a motion and a second to put the Palms floor plan out for bid. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on. On to our, help me on this one, Dale, the unfinished business.
Yeah, I have nothing for the agenda that requires approval of the trustees, but I will use this opportunity just to give you a couple of updates. Number one, you previously transferred certain emergency medical equipment that was in possession of the hospital authority to Columbia County. We are doing that, or we're in the process of finalizing that. Those storage trailers were titled, so we found the titles to those. They were already in the name of the authority. So we should be able to transfer that relatively easy. And all of that should probably get complete or be complete this week. I had been asked to also do a financial recap of where we were in interest earned on investments of the authority. I have that information. I'll be sending it to you. And so you should receive it also this week. And if there's any questions about any of those, you can ask me later. They do not require any action on your part.
Okay. Moving on to our unfinished business, Mr. Kennan.
Yes, at the last meeting, Mr. Arline was instructed to begin the drafting process for a suit against the city to obtain a declaratory judgment. Hopefully finding a legal non-conforming use. We wanted to get some, I guess, better assurances from the Meridian that if we went through that litigation process that that they would agree that a resolution or a deck judgment finding illegal non-conforming use would be appropriate for them, and that before we spent the money on litigation, we would have some sort of commitment. In your agenda pack is their letter dated April 29th, 2025 in response to that. And then to get further clarification on some of the issues, I wrote to their attorney, Mr. Evans, thanking him and Ms. Cone for a unprecedented turnaround. It's much appreciated. And so where we are now, I believe that if we don't want to pursue the litigation, which Meridian has stated they would not commit at this time to sign the agreement if we went through the litigation process and obtained the legal non-conforming use. Mr. Williams and I have a different plan, so to speak. We would then modify our agreement for your review, and would then place, to the extent Meridian would agree, some of the conditions that were exhibit B of the city's resolution and their agreement. For instance, one of the issues was the Sally Port. You know, Meridian's willing to commit to one Sally Port, but not multiple Sally Ports at all potential entryways, which I think that hopefully was just a misunderstanding from the start. Not every, even secure buildings have generally one secure entrance and exit, probably utilizing the overhang at the emergency entrance would be a perfect spot for that. They're willing to place that in our agreement, willing to notify using a little bit different language than the city had proposed if they had any quote missing patients. They're okay with including the radio dispatch system with some further discussions about determining cost and financial support of who would cover that. So I think at this point, the plan would be to modify our agreement, probably by adding just an additional addendum. I found that's easier to follow. If I add an addendum C or D to ours that outlines this, then it's easy for everybody to follow, and you don't have to go get into the heart of that multi-page agreement to find out where it's at. So that would be, with the board's approval, that would be our next step, would be to add an addendum to the Meridian list to address the concerns the city had, and then negotiate with the city to determine if they would allow the authority rather than the city to enforce the conditions that Meridian would be amenable to placing in the agreement. And then Mr. Arline is here by Zoom to answer any zoning, land use specific questions.
Okay. Before we get into those questions, I want to open up the public comments. Mr. Bowden.
It's been about 56 Northeast Pasco North Drive. I've been following this issue over the past years, and I've never made a whole lot of public comments about it because I wasn't sure where I really stood. At the very beginning, I had some mixed emotions about Meridian coming here because I bought into that misinformation about the people and how they're going to be treated in the community. But now I don't have that view. I think that it's probably one of the best things that could happen for the city of Lake City. I'm very disappointed as a former city commissioner and a citizen of the city of Lake City, the position that the city is taking. The city is involved themselves in a process that I think was, trying to bully and manhandle this authority. And I personally resent that. And I would hope that, we can work out some kind of understanding if we go to court. If I was on the city council, I would never would have voted for it, number one. But I would suggest that if you need to go to court, then go to court, you know, and, I don't see where the city should have any control over how Meridian is operated. You know, I can't see them saying, well, we want this, this, and this. And when at the meeting that I attended, when the joint meeting, whatever you call it, I'm not a lawyer. I went to the meeting thinking there's gonna be some conversation about, the zoning issue. I didn't, all I heard there was about what the city wanted and did not want. And that's what let me know then that the city is not being fair in this approach. And I just want to voice my opinion that it's time for us to just to thank the city, and if they don't want to cooperate, then do what you have to do. Because as a citizen, I ride down 90, I looked over in the hospital, it was operating, that was a beautiful sight to see it all lit up. Now you ride by, it's depressing. I ride by here sometimes just going to City Hall, just looking at it's decaying. And it makes no sense. It's time for us to move on. If we're really ready to do it, then let's make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belcher. Got some case, Ms. Sumner? Any other public comments before we open this up for discussion? To exhaust that real quick. So Todd, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this email here from David. If is Meridian indicated they're agreeable to this if we amend our agreement with them moving forward with.
As long as the authority is the one that would enforce the terms and conditions and not have two different entities to which they would be answering to. I think that's their main objection to that. I guess the pros and cons of litigation are, obviously the cost, uncertainty as to an outcome. You're looking minimum fast track, probably 8 months to get it into court for a final resolution. And at this point, we don't have a commitment from Meridian that they would accept the legal non-conforming. So that's sort of the con.
And with this coming at this time, has the city given us any indication on their response to this? If we include that?
At 4:10 p.m. today. That's why I thank them for their prompt response.
Oh, that's what I was wondering. I didn't know if the city was aware of that or if there's anyone there. I guess that's the.
No, we just wanted to, before we move forward with any further discussions on that issue, we just wanted, Meridian's, take on how they would want any conditions worded and which conditions they would agree to and would not agree to.
Sure.
Yes, sir. Mr. Beal.
Mr. Kennedy. So if we added addendum to our agreement with Meridian, I'm assuming step 2 would be for us to pass a resolution that would go before the city council. One of my biggest problems is we started conflict resolution and then I feel like we just went to the city's playground and followed their rules. Just to remind everybody how we got here, been dealing with this for like 4 years now. And then at the 11th hour, the city came in and said, oh, wait, we want the building. Didn't go with that. So a week later, we get a letter saying, did some digging and I think we can hold this up. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, of course. And then this whole process started. So then we hired Mr. Arline and we did this conflict resolution. Mr. Bowden said, We went to their playground and listened to what they wanted, which had nothing to do with the zoning issue that started this entire thing. We've wasted so much taxpayer money that it's sickening. And I think it's also set a pretty bad precedent for the city of Lake City on the future of any economic development in the city. I know that if I was a CEO of a large corporation and I saw this, I'd probably be looking elsewhere to locate my business. I don't know, Dale, I hate to put you on the spot. If we ever get the number of how many calls the police department makes to Walmart?
We did, they did respond to a public records request. I do not have that with me, but they did provide it.
I imagine it's a lot. I see them there every time I drive by the place. I hate going there. But
This alternative would be part of, and Mr. Arline can correct me if I'm wrong, but this would be just a continuation before we nix the 164. Be another negotiation, or a counter offer to the city to say, hey, we can give you a lot of what you requested, but you have to trust the authority to enforce it. And then obviously,
Yeah, I mean,
if they say no, we can either litigate or not.
so the city passed a resolution that we obviously did not agree to pass the same resolution.
Correct.
So would the next step be for us to pass a resolution and send it volleyed over to them, or do we just go to them and say, hey, we've amended our agreement with this. Will you take this?
That's what we're proposing as we think the easiest step. Now, Mr. Arline may have a different idea on how to approach it that way, but yes, that would be instead of adopting a resolution with all this in it, would be just to go to the city and say, hey, here's our revised agreement with Meridian. And we're telling you as the authority, we will enforce these conditions. And if there's enough in there to make the city happy and they say yes, then the idea would be to say, okay, let's now revert back to a legal non-conforming use discussion, get that done. With the city's blessing on the conditions within our contract with Meridian that we would enforce.
Yeah.
And then obviously if they said no, it's our resolution or not, then we know that the only other step would be the litigation and try to obtain the legal non-conforming use.
Which Meridian said that they wouldn't accept that. As of now, they wouldn't accept that, so I don't think we should continue wasting taxpayer money. My personal opinion is we add maybe, 1 through 4 I'm okay with. I don't like the idea of the city telling any business that comes to town that they have to install technology in their building. I don't think they've done that for Walmart or any other courthouse, any other building. I mean, it's not typical of the city to require that.
I know the courthouse obviously is staffed with the bailiff, so that's their internal security system. I believe.
Again, as a trustee of the hospital authority, I think it's ridiculous that the city's doing this. So what I'm saying is me, one individual trustee, I don't think we should put anything about a radio dispatch system in any agreement, because I don't think it's the city of Lake. I don't think any of this is the city of Lake City's business, to be very clear. But if Meridian's okay with adding these things to our agreement, then let's do it, and let's do it quickly. But I would also expect somebody from our staff or Mr. Arline to go to the next city council meeting and speak publicly and make sure that our points are made. That, don't forget, you guys just asked for the building to be used as a city hall and a civic center, which is not single family residential. And then turned around the next week and said, can't use it for this. So if we're gonna do this, we need to do it quickly, because the price tag that we're paying, including to the city, for water and sewer and gas is taxpayer money that's being wasted. And I think it's a waste of time and taxpayer money. So I'd like to get it done quickly or move forward and tear the building down if not. It's just me.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
how do any of you propose that we enforce any of this? How many people do we have to hire? Because you'll need 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service to take care of some of these things.
I mean, once they build a Sally Port, the Sally Port's built.
The enforcement would be as an enforcement of a contract. So it would be, I'm not contemplating, or I don't see in this that we have staff sitting at Meridian all day, every day to make sure they're doing these things. It'll become pretty apparent if they're not. And then the court action, would be
Okay.
you agreed to do B and you're not doing B, if we have proof of that, and then the court can say, yes, you agreed to do B, and we find from the evidence you're not doing B, so start doing B.
Okay, but they don't always say, just start doing it. You're supposed to do things from the get-go.
Chauncey, a lot of this is removing, all of this is really removing requirements. It's not adding any requirements. It would take no
If you
enforcement.
look at, especially 4 and 5, it adds requirements.
Well, that number 4 is a requirement from Meridian.
I
No.
don't care who it's from. Those are requirements.
We didn't have somebody sitting 24/7 when it was a hospital, to make sure that they were maintaining the building. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in the shape that it was in. We're not gonna have our hands in it. It's done. We're getting rid of the $50,000 a month price tag that is costing the taxpayers to maintain the building.
Thought in the event that we had dissolved, who takes over the contract goes to the county or the city?
Well, when you didn't have a board last time, it went into receivership and the county took it over.
Okay.
It did, at some point in that process, you would expect the governor to step in and decide what he's gonna do as far as ratifying the county taking it over. Now, if there's legislation in the next session, I don't have a clue what that might look like. It might be we're dissolving you and all of your assets and obligations go to the county, or that'd be up to the legislature on how to modify our special act that created us.
But the legislature would dictate who takes over the enforcement action on this, and more than likely the county.
I would say more than likely the county. Because our mission is to provide county residents with the services. And the taxes collected in the past have all been, on a countywide basis.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Kennedy.
if I may. Mr. Arline, are you on the phone?
Yes, sir.
Help me out. Try to keep it in layman's terms if you can, because I'm not a lawyer. But since the article appeared in the newspaper on Saturday, I have received several comments, a telephone call as of 4:30 this afternoon asking me to explain what is going on. Mr. Bowden, I appreciate you being here, and I too am offended that the city has injected themselves into this agreement. And Mr. Arline, in your 6-page letter that you wrote on behalf of the authority dated November the 15th, 2024, do you by chance have that before you?
Yes, sir. I remember what I said.
Okay. Every time I read it, I get excited because you did a great job in reading it, but can you please help explain to me in layman's terms so that the public can understand it, what it means to be in non-conforming use?
Sure. Just first, let me start by saying, I just want to thank the authority for allowing me to appear remotely. As you may know, my wife has recently had surgery, and I like the opportunity to be here with her. A legal non-conforming use is a land use concept. It's a zoning concept, which typically means that a building or a use that was in operation and existed before the local government adopts a zoning code or a land development regulation, that it continues as a legal use, even though it doesn't comply with the code. It's non-conforming with the code. But the whole concept is that governments don't adopt laws and then apply them retroactively to entities and businesses that are already operating. And so the non-conforming use concept is kind of the recognition of a property right that a business or a property owner that's had a use that was in place before the regulation went in place, that it would continue to be legal and it wouldn't have to comply necessarily with new zoning requirements. And so that, in my mind, applied to the comprehensive plan, because the city's comprehensive plan was adopted in 1990, and we know that the hospital was in existence and operational before that. But I wanted to just highlight a couple of things that are in the city's comprehensive plan. It specifically had a provision in it that said that public uses shown on the land use plan map are public uses which existed at the time of the adoption of this comprehensive plan, and that public uses occurring after the adoption of this plan shall be permitted with any zoning district by special exception and shall not require an amendment to the future land use plan map. Well, Lake Shore Hospital was identified on that map in 1990. It was specifically listed as a public use. But what the comp plan's saying is that those public uses that existed and are shown on those maps are non-conforming legal uses under the new comp plan. And it says they don't have to go get a special exception to continue to operate. And that provision of the comp plan goes on to mention that public uses include private institutions that are providing a public service. So it even, in my mind, when the comp plan was adopted in 1990, they recognized Lakeshore Hospital was operating as a hospital. And at that time, I believe it was actually operated under a lease with a nonprofit corporation providing hospital services. So because the comp plan was pretty explicit that Lakeshore was non-conforming and was legal under the comp plan in 1990, that carried forward. And the other concept is legal non-conforming uses. How do they go away? Okay, what do they have to do to go away? And the city focused on a word in their zoning code that says discontinue. If you discontinue a non-conforming use, you lose the status as a non-conforming use. Well, as I cited in my letter, that's not the law. The law is that you have the landowner or the entity, the business, has to intend to walk away and abandon and discontinue the use. Closing the doors of a bar or a business for months, maybe several years, while you're trying to refurbish it or sell it, is not abandoning it, and you don't lose your non-conforming use status. So I made that apparent in my letter that, you know, it was non-conforming under the comp plan very clearly in 1990, And under Florida law, you don't lose your non-conforming status just because you're trying to sell your property, refurbish it and transfer it to another owner. And so, whether it's compliant with the zoning code is complicated. The zoning code was adopted in 1980, but I think the hospital was already operational. It was adopted actually in June of 1980. I think the hospital was already operational in June of 1980. And at any rate, the comp plan, which I just mentioned, controls over the zoning code. Any conflict between the two, the comp plan, it's like the Constitution. It controls over the zoning. And so, yeah, to answer your question, I feel comfortable that if we went to court, we'd have a strong argument that it's a legal non-conforming use. But like Mr. Kennan said, that can take time. It costs money to pay me to do it. And, you never know what a judge is going to say. And so it go either way. So that's essentially my response to your request.
Okay. And then on page 3 of your letter, you state in here that therefore the hospital is legally designated public land use.
Yes, it as I said,
Under their comprehensive plan.
right. It's identified on the future land use map, and
Yes,
it's
sir.
specifically listed as one of the public uses. It lists Lakeshore Hospital.
Okay. And then if I may, getting over to page 5 of that, the very last paragraph, and this is where I'm heading on this particular statement that you made, is you say there is case law governing the issue of whether a local government may regulate the activities of a state agency, such as the authority. And then you go on and you refer the Temple Terrace versus Hillsborough Association for Retarded Citizens case. And on the very last page, you talk about the public interest favoring the proposed use outweigh these mitigating against a use not sanctioned. And then you stated, it is my belief that the city's position to deny the use of the property directed by a state law creating the authority would be difficult to prove in court. Your comments on that statement?
Yeah, I still stand on that. That is that's what the courts call a balancing test. And so I can't give you 100%, but I mean, the authority was created by the legislature, and it has a job to do under special district, under special law that created it. And this concept that I'm talking about, it basically is that a local government can't make a land use decision that prevents a special district from doing its job. So that issue's also out there, in addition to the non-conforming use issue. But again, it's time consuming. It's expensive to litigate these this Temple Terrace case, and the judge gets to make the decision. So
the only hope that we would have is this board would have is that you and Mr. Kennan can convince the city to not intervene in the agreement that the authority has with Meridian.
That's a decision that the board makes, but Meridian has essentially told you that if we go down the road of litigation, they're not necessarily going to be satisfied with that and sign the contract.
Right. But if we forego the litigation and hopefully Mr. Arline and Mr. Kennan can convince the city not to be involved in the agreement, I think Meridian's board may agree to that.
That's what I understand as well. And the I know the 164 process was, could be perceived as being difficult or not resulted in anything, but it is still an opportunity out there for the city and the authority to sign an agreement that says, you know, we agree that Meridian, that the authority can transfer this to Meridian under this contract. And, you know, the city says that it would support it. So I think we could do that. Procedurally, I would not, what I would recommend is, you know, we have a subcommittee of the 164 process that included you, Mr. Kennedy, and Mr. Kennan, and myself. And what I would recommend is that maybe Mr. Kennan, as one of the members of that subcommittee, talk to perhaps the city attorney as the member of their subcommittee, and see if it looks like we could move forward with presenting the city with an alternative to the resolution it came up with that would be acceptable to Meridian, and then take it from there. But you know, I'm happy to go talk to the city commission if that's what you desire. But I think that it could happen among the joint subcommittees under the 164 process that have already been established.
Mr. Arline, thank you for your time and explaining that, and it helps me explain it to the people that have asked me what's going on.
Here. The only difference is I would request that one of the attorneys or Mr. Williams or Mr. Kennan or somebody go before the full city council, not that subcommittee, because I don't think the full city council understands what's happening. I don't think that it hasn't been discussed in a city council meeting. It's been staff and the mayor who's part of that subcommittee, but I think it should be talked about in front of the full city council. That's what I would want us to do.
And Mr. Chair, and I agree with you, Mr. Beal, but one of the city council members has recused themselves from this subject because she is an employee with Meridian. So that leaves 4. And I know of 2 who have told me that they are against Meridian being in that hospital. So then you're looking at a 2-2 split, meaning
Well,
no decision.
I've talked to 3 of the 4, and 2 of them are against it, but one of the 2 that are against it has also told me that he doesn't think that the city can stop it from happening, that he doesn't think that that's within the city's rights, and he doesn't personally like it, but
Yeah, but
fine.
I
don't like Walmart, but I still go there.
And I agree, but I think if he can hang his hat on the fact that the city has come in and required the ADA Title II position towards Meridian, then he'll hang his hat on that. I mean, I'm just playing the devil's advocate with you. I'm in agreement with whatever the board decides to do. Mr. Kennan, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
I mean,
Okay, you're.
Either way, I mean, we've explained the pros and the cons. We're ready to do whatever this board wants us to do. I think, you know, my opinion is that, like you say, with Mr. Arline's suggestion, let's get the addendum drafted, get its approval by Meridian as to the language. And then I can present that to Mr. Martin. And I should know pretty quick whether there's any feasibility of moving forward, and if there's any light at the end of the tunnel, then we can proceed with the full council.
Would a phone call accomplish that before adding all of that? And
Well, I think,
offense, but
in all
paying you
fairness to them, I think they would need to see the language, because it will be different than
But if
what
a
they
phone
had in their
call,
exhibit B.
a phone call says, hey, this, and this. And he says, no, they're not gonna go for it.
Well, I can actually provide the email to Clay, and that's the easiest way to do it.
I mean, that way, again, I mean, I hope you don't stop. You just go eat dinner at my house, but I don't want to pay you to draft this up and
I love you, Sam. That's awesome.
I feel like the agreement that this board has with Meridian has been well thought out, 3 years. Talking to everybody under the sun, and I want to thank Mr. Williams, Mr. Powell, Mr. Kennan, Ms. Markham, and for your hard work on this. But if I was on the board of Meridian, I would be in the same position as they are. I would not want the city to micromanage their daily routine at this facility. And it's a shame that they're told when they attend the meeting at the city by one of the city officials that we don't want you here before they even start the meeting. That's pretty poor. And it's the same person that told me 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, that he was in favor of it, had no problems with it when I met with him in his office, and now he's completely changed his mind. But I understand. Money talks. Don't mean to get upset. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, that's quite all right. This is frustrating, isn't enough as it is.
If
And that's off the record too.
I'll
Yeah, right.
Good. I like that look. I appreciate that.
Guaranteed that was gonna be.
I forgot completely.
That may be
I'm
a
sorry.
headline.
Mr. Bill.
I'll make a motion that we instruct our attorney to make a phone call, forward an email, have a conversation with the city attorney, Mr. Martin, about this to see what the reception would be, and then if necessary, to add it as an addendum to the agreement that we have and move forward in that process as quickly as possible to get this resolved. I don't want, yeah, and that's why it's part of my motion, is so that way he's got everything he needs to do to be able to do that, if the city's at least open to it. And we don't have to wait until our next meeting. In the meantime, that's all.
I think that's the
my
best
motion.
approach, is to try to get some inclination from the city as to whether they will be willing to allow us to control whatever terms and conditions that Meridian is satisfied with.
And I would like the points that Mr. Kennedy brought up and had Mr. Arline reiterate, like he did in his first letter, all of those things that, you know, say that the city really shouldn't be interfering in this, and that it's still a public use, which is what it's zoned. Yeah, so that would be my motion, is to have the attorney do what he can do, and again, if needed, go ahead and add the addendum with these items. If that can do it, but I would also like at some point for somebody from the Lakeshore Hospital Authority to speak in front of the full city council to reiterate our point, because I truly don't believe that the full city council has been made aware of what is happening.
So I'm clear on the motion. You wanna make a motion that Todd draft the language to this and present it to the city?
I
Phone
think
call
the
or forward
motion would be
email
to make the
first.
phone, forward the email,
Forward the email and,
because it lays it out pretty succinctly. Mr.
Okay.
Evans did a fantastic job of getting right to the heart of the matter and being very specific in his language.
okay,
And then, Mr. Martin can hopefully, talk to whoever he needs to pretty quickly and say, there's a chance here, or we're sticking with our resolution. Have a nice day. And then I agree with Mr. Beal, no reason to draft something that we know the city's not gonna agree to.
okay. I understand that. Mr. Kennedy?
So that I understand the motion before I may second it, is that gonna also basically state, Mr. Kennan, that the city will not even be listed in the agreement that was provided to us at the last month's board meeting.
Correct,
And then I'll second the motion.
yeah, to further clarify, it would be that, what we're gonna tell the city is, this is what the extra conditions Meridian is willing to agree to as worded, number one. And number two, the city will have to trust the authority to enforce those conditions, going forward. And then we would also need the grace of the city, however, me and Mr. Arline determined to be appropriate, I guess, as to, give an assurance to Meridian that go forth and operate under your agreement with the authority.
And that would resolve the 164 issue?
Yes, because we would have to have something from them, indicating that probably it would, and Mr. Arline can correct me, that it would need to say something to the effect that it is a legal non-conforming use.
Okay.
And can proceed as, mental health hospital.
If
As
Mr.
set forth
Arline,
in our agreement with Meridian.
if
As
Mr.
set
Arline,
forth in our agreement.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm following.
if Mr. Arline agrees with you, then I'll second that motion.
Let me unmute Mr. Arline.
All right, yes, I agree. That's the approach to take.
So we have a motion and a second to do as stated by Mr. Kennon. I'll do a roll call vote on that. Ms. Chancey,
Yes.
Mr. Kennon,
Yes.
Mr. Bull,
Yes.
Mr. Field.
Yes.
Motion's unanimous, passes. Out of curiosity, before we move on, if the city accepts that, do you need something separate from us to move forward with drafting the language, or is that premature?
If we do, we'll get with Mr. Williams, call a special meeting, but I don't think that, the drafting part's pretty easy. You draft it, send it over to Mr. Evans, he'll approve the language with his client, and there you have it. Because you can see, for instance, when I say approve the language, in particular, number 4.
Yeah.
The city worded it one way, Meridian is requesting that it use different language or different terms, which I'm assuming are terms of art within the mental health treatment programs.
I think it's
Will 2
similar to any
weeks be
medical.
enough that we can go ahead and set a special meeting, Mr. Chairman?
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
We can't do it on the 26th because that's Memorial Day, but Tuesday the 27th.
You're not doing anything, right?
Oh, I'm not.
Thank you.
I'm not available with Thursday and Friday before Memorial Day.
Okay, but I'm
I
talking
mean-
about Tuesday because we have to wait 2 weeks anyway, don't we, to advertise it?
Pretty much.
I mean, it
Yeah.
would be,
That's the thing, right?
27th or 28th?
Yeah, there are legal advertising requirements, and then, of course, we have to publish and do those things, so.
Wednesday.
Working on it.
It's my birthday.
Yeah, 28th is a Wednesday.
I don't even know how old you are.
Does Noah ring a bell? Remember that big boat?
That's rough. So, we need a motion to do a special, or do we need a motion to create a special meeting on the 28th?
Well, it's preferable, but, I suggest, because I don't know what time frame's gonna be here, we just go ahead and advertise several days for special meetings. I'd rather advertise for them and then cancel one if we can't make it. That way, we're bound to hit somewhere,
28th is not good for me.
27th, Tuesday.
Sure. Works for me.
How about you, Miss Lori?
I don't really have any preference.
I may have a CRA meeting on the 27th, but we could get potentially Mr. Arline to zoom in if he's available on that date, if I have to be in Live Oak.
Yeah,
They may have them outlawed before the 27th.
yeah. Dale, when you're saying some dates to bounce around, are you talking consecutive dates or like a week later or?
Well, what I would do, Miss Lori, is what I've done in the past, and I would just have Sonia call you, find out what dates you're available and try to pick several and advertise them at one time.
Yeah,
Because it's easier to cancel the meeting than it is to create the meeting. And that's just the way the process works. But I would hate to just advertise the one date, something happened, and we're 2 days out, and let's not have, then got to do the whole process again. So if you're okay with the special meetings, I will be more than glad to have Sonia just coordinate with everybody to pick the dates best available for everyone. And we'll advertise several, including the one you just picked.
Do we need to vote on that motion in
You
a second?
did make a motion to authorize staff to schedule several public meetings, one of which would be the 27th, and then consecutive dates thereafter as the board is available.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to schedule a special meeting on the 27th and 2 more additional dates. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Okay. I believe that's it. If anybody has any further comments on that issue, we'll move on. I'm moving on to our staff reports in your packets. Any specific board member comments, Ms. Chance?
None.
Mr. Kennedy?
None.
No.
Glad this is the fastest meeting we've had in a very long time.
It's all right. What's adjourned? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was asking Mr. Bill up for supper a moment.
We're adjourned.